Trader psychology, learned optimism. All right here around election time, it certainly seemed like a good time to be doing something around trader psychology. Emotions tend to be higher at this time. Man, they are certainly around me. And we get to see some big moves and some big choppiness in markets as, the markets are nervous. And we saw a lot of big moves coming into this election and after the election, certainly big moves. And this is an opportunity, really. When it comes to trader psychology, I've done this for so many years, actually for more than 2 decades. There is some reluctance to looking inward. It's what really are we going to discover? And am I going to ask you to do something that you've been doing for a long period of time that may make you comfortable? So that's one of the interesting things about doing things when we talk about trader psychology is that the answers are often meaning that we have to look in areas that we don't really want to, or that we have to give up practices that we have felt comfortable in, that we thought have basically worked for us for survival. So often it's pretty difficult, and people are often slow to come to trader psychology. And I happen to know that the trader psychology segments that I do are some of the least watched of all of my segments. And my opinion, and so many tons of emails that I get from people, are that they end up to be the most valuable when people finally start to look at some of the aspects of themselves that may be getting in the way of their greatest successes. So this is an interesting one, learned optimism. It's a cute little phrase, right? It's also the title of a book that I've discussed before, and people that have taken my recommendation and have gotten the book have really thanked me for the opportunity and what they've had a chance to learn from it. My wife recommended it to me, and that was, I can't remember. It was like 12 years ago or something like that. And the time that she gave it to me, I was in a funk. Usually a funk to me means a slump, right? I'm not trading well, I'm doubting myself. And I've had lots of those in 42 years, certainly. Interesting that I've survived all of those, right? I'm still here talking to you. And when they happen, maybe I don't have quite that much confidence. And that's really what this discussion is going to be about. For me, when things start to go bad, I start to struggle. I go inward, right? I'm an introvert. You might have a hard time believing that, as I'm here in front of thousands or tens of thousands of people throughout the weeks, and that you would think that that's not the kind of person that you would consider to be an introvert. Well, introvert really has some different meanings. For me, it's not so much that I'm willing to put myself out there or that I'll hide from public view. It's more about what I do to heal, what I do to take care of myself, how I get motivated. And that's from the inside. So if things start to not go well, I retreat inward. I heal inward. I find my answers inward. I don't reach out easily. That's probably something I along the way that I worked hard to change. And I get my motivation from inside. So that means when things start to go bad, I get quiet. I come inside. And when that would happen to me, my wife would get scared by that. She'd be disturbed by the fact that I was quiet, inward, seemingly like in a lot of pain. So she had read this book, and it was recommended to her, and she suggested to me that I read the book. And that book is called, and I'm going to hold it up for you to see, and I really encourage you to go out and buy it. Here it is, Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. So she gave me the book, and man, was this ever a great gift to me. The subtitle of the book is How to Change Your Mind and Change Your Life, and it's very fitting. An odd paradox, really, that I expect to perform well by my focus on the negatives. That's really kind of anti-law of attraction. I turn in and I look at the negatives going on for me, and what that is really some negative motivation. And a lot of people do that, and I've worked with so many people who have this particular dynamic. And the book really helped me to understand how that works, and how to be more positive, to change the internal language, to be able to look at things in ways that can lift me up, by looking at the positive side of things versus encouraging myself because I build up what the negatives are within myself. That's a negative motivation. For some of us, and me, it's like if I give up that negative self-talk, then what will I have left? What would stimulate me, right? It's that's really the nature of somebody who motivates themselves in a negative way. I learned that from somewhere early in my life. I'm not exactly sure where. I've done a lot of internal work and over these years, and that's one of the things that I haven't really seen modeled for me. Though somewhere down the line I did learn it, and a lot of people that talk to me about this particular dynamic tell me that they did have it modeled for them. The problem is that when we turn inward, turn in negatively, all that negative self-talk, is that it actually affects us in some ways that we don't really want. We hope it. Part of us thinks it's going to motivate us in this to really blast out of this negative place we're in, energize ourselves by that negative talk. That's the way it's worked for me. But it brings on depression, it brings on ill health, it brings on relationship issues, tons of things that come out of it negatively, all that negative self-talk. This book has got a ton of lessons in it. We're going to really focus on one area of the book, and that is the discussion of what we're going to call the 3 Ps. And I'm going to go over those 3 Ps with you. I'll give you some tool that Martin Seligman, the author, uses to go from the negative talk to the positive talk, and then just give some examples of all of that so that you can use it to your benefit. So I have a series of slides that we're going to go over here, and I think they're going to help you a lot. So we're talking about the 3 Ps. This is this negative sense of pessimism that we do in some inherent way because it's a coping mechanism often for us. 3 Ps are that things, when they go wrong, are permanent, pervasive, and personal. So let's look at these slides and say what these things are and how they might show up for me, for us as traders, as I converted over a lot of Seligman's lessons to us as traders. So here's the first one we're going to look at, and that is permanence. So when something goes wrong and we go into this negative self-talk, it's kind of like we think it's forever, right? I can't believe I did this again. There's that talk about how we keep repeating things. I will never get this right. I will never be successful as a trader. I will never be able to have, and you can fill in the blank there as to what you're cheating yourself out of in this this losing mode that you're in. I'll never be able to have enough money to pay my bills, enough money to satisfy my wife, to pay college tuition for my kids, to build the house I want to build, to buy the car I want to buy. You can just fill in all of the things. I will never. It's that language, the never language that's permanence, right? It's forever. You know, I'm going to, and fill in the blank there, something that you're going to do to make me feel better. That's often when we get into this permanence type language, when we believe that, you know, something is forever and the pain is so big, well, then we have some addictive way that we deal with it. So our mind goes to, I'm going to do this to make me feel better. And you've got something, or I have something that I do, which keeps me from feeling this pain, the emotion I'm getting from I will never. So that's the permanence, the first P that we're going to talk about. The second P we're going to talk about is pervasiveness. It's about everything in our life. That negative self-talk comes in and it's, here I go again, another loss. This is just like when and you go back to thinking about earlier times in your life, had a rough time in school, did something that got you in trouble, something in our history that is another failure that we've had, and we go back to that and we take on this negative sense of self, this I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, all this negative who I am, pervasiveness. Everything I touch goes bad. Now I won't be able to. There it is again. You can fill in the blank. Because I am this way, I can't have this, or I won't have this. So all of this sense it's about everything that we touch. It's about everything in our life. And that's this really harsh negative self-talk that we go to when we're in this pessimistic place of the three Ps. We get there because we believe that somehow it protects us. It's an odd paradox. And the last one is personalization. It's who I am, and also what they did. So in other words, we go to a victim place. It's not only who I am, but who I am and how low I must be on this totem pole for them, whoever they are, to do that to me. So there's that victim language, and you take it on with a language like, I'm such a, you don't know how many times I've heard somebody say, I'm such an idiot. That type of language where you really personalize it. The market got me again. They, whoever they are, keep doing this to me. My blank, fill that in, was right when they said and called me a whatever that was. You can go back in your history and think about what somebody called you that you're still holding on to, that you haven't let go. And then how will I tell, and fill in that blank, what I did? How much I lost. It's this, again, personalizing what they will believe about me when they find out the actions that I took, how my behaviors were something that was destructive, how I was so bad that I could have possibly done that or done that again. So that is the three Ps. You can see how that would be that negative language that just seems to constantly come in, right, when things go wrong. Now, we don't all do this, and some of us do this at, there's a gradation in it, different levels that the negative self-talk might come in. But this is how we get into this place of pessimism, with all of this talk that somehow we learned is the right thing to do when things go wrong. It's really so odd that I do that we do this. When you see me hold up my hand, it means I'm saying that I do it. I resonate with this lesson that so many people do when things start to go wrong. So then in Seligman's book, he takes on a system. He shares a system that we can use for learning optimism, right? The book is Learned Optimism. So here's what he calls the ABC system. It's actually ABCDE when we look at this. And this is about really looking at the event and reframing it in a way that, this thing that goes on in our mind that thinks it's the right way to beat us, that beating ourselves up is the right answer. It's a way to change that and to get into a healthier place, to be optimistic, and then to be able to use different language, which we'll talk about in just a second. So here is Seligman's ABC system. First, the A is there's an adversity, right? Something is going on. The event is causing us stress. B is the belief, right? The interpretation that we make around the event. It's the belief about ourselves. It's a belief about being a victim. It's a belief that they got us. It's the belief of everything out there that could be pointing at us as somehow being guilty of something or being the victim. And then there's the C, the consequence, that the behavior that we then take on is from our beliefs that's caused by the adversity. So there is a consequence, and the consequence might be that we just lost money, right? That would be kind of a high-level belief of consequence, but our low-level belief of consequence would be we're not going to have this, or we're not this, or we'll never be this, or that kind of language. So, it's about seeing that the consequence isn't exactly as negative as we frame it, then putting it in a more positive spin. And that's where we dispute it, the disputation, as he calls it. It's challenging those negative thoughts, using past successes, past beliefs about ourselves, things that we know that have been great, and changing that whole mind frame. We call that a reframe, where we come out of this negative self-talk and we start to put it into positives, and that's energizing, where we hold on to the successes and positive aspects of us that leads us to feeling more energized, to be positive and to be optimistic. So that's the A, B, C, D, E. As we learn these tools to change around the things that we're going to look at. So that was a little peek of the first slide there. What we're going to do is go over those three things again: the permanence, the pervasiveness, and it being personal, and look at how we then change the language, change our thought process into a way that it's positive. We see things as, yeah, something happened, and okay, we're moving forward now. That's really what it's about. So it's changing our mindset, changing our language, getting into a way where we're filling ourselves up with positive energy. So remember this phrase, that we can create our life, our being, in the way that we desire, in a positive way. So first thing we're going to look at is that, that first word, permanence, where, we believe that it's like, it's forever, right? And we want to take the permanence and see how it's temporary, how it will change. So we want to use language that helps us see how we have turned things around in the past. We want to go back. Instead of looking at the negatives in our history, we're going to look at the positives, how we made things different. We're going to focus on how we recovered. And there's a million ways that I'm sure we've done that in our lives. When we were little kids and fell on and skinned our knee, to when we were in school and, got a grade we weren't happy with, and then turned it around by working harder at it, and so many other ways that we've done that. See how the cause, whatever the cause of the events are temporary, right? It's just a market condition, right? It's just something that went on in the market that's, different. And I wasn't quite on what was going on, and so the market will change. I'll get better. I've done this before. I've got it wrong before, and I'm going to know that I have recovered in the past. And it doesn't really matter, because I know the way to believing that what's going on right now is temporary. I've proved that in my life. The next one is the idea of pervasiveness, that it goes through everything in our life and every time in our life. Now you're taking on the language that it's only now, this time, this event. This is not about my life. This is the positive language, right, that we're putting in now, that we're changing. I have all of these wonderful people and family in my life. So now you're focusing on not this negative thing that happened in our life, not this event, and not this, language that has us sensing that, this is like in everything, but we're proving now to ourselves that that is so wrong, and just a little part of us that's trying to take on this negative thoughts. Look what I've done for, and you can fill in the blanks there about, the people that you've helped. Look what I've contributed to, how you've been, a positive in society, in the circles that you travel in. And this doesn't matter, this event. I will learn from it. I will take the lessons from this and use it throughout my life, aspects of my life. If it's going to be pervasive at all, it's going to be pervasive in a positive way. You can get the difference in that, I'm sure. And the last one we're going to look at is personalization. Except that instead of saying, that it's about me, that I'm responsible for it, or I'm a victim for it, that it is not about me. This is the language we're going to switch it to. This was an unusual market condition, right? And I'm learning from this. I'll do my best to avoid this in the future. I'm really going to benefit from this experience. I'm very good at, fill in the blank. What are you very good at? I am. And those are your affirmations. I'm a great parent. I'm a great father. I'm a great trader. I'm all of the things within me that lift me out of these negative thoughts and put me into a way where I'm doing things productively. Yes, productively, positively. What I'm getting at in here is that we essentially affect our being. We affect our life. We create our realities. And when we're in a place, and this is very law of attraction, it's that when we're thinking negatively, or our filters that we use only let in that which supports the negative. So some people might talk about law of attraction and say, well, it's kind of woo-woo, it's metaphysical, crazy stuff. And maybe it is a lot of that, but I believe in the science part of it, and that is that if we, think negatively, then essentially we're going to only let the data in that's negative. We're going to only take in that which supports our desire to be negative so that we can energize ourselves out of this negative place, even though it doesn't work and we think it works. The other part of that is if we're positive and we let things through these filters of believing things are positive, then our behaviors will act in ways that support success. That's really the big lesson in here, and I think Seligman did an unbelievable job in teaching us that. So these lessons, they've been a giant help for me, being able to switch myself from negatively motivating myself and being in a funk a lot, and then having great successes out of that, but a huge cost to the emotional swings, to being able to be far more level and being able to be a lot more optimistic. So these are the great lessons from the book, Learned Optimism. I hope you go out and get the book, and I hope that this little piece that we did on it was beneficial for you. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next segment.
Well, I'm going to the city and I'm gonna do a stage show.